Welcome back, and let's continue watching Mags on Media. And here are a few local brand snippets for you. To mark World Environment Day, Emirates Airline doing its bit for sustainability by giving its old advertising billboards a new lease on life. A total of 517 square meters of PVC material was turned into school bags and donated to pupils at a primary school in Alexandra here in Johannesburg. And Coca-Cola in South Africa claiming that it recycled more plastic than it actually produced in 2018. This comes as part of the company's global commitment to collect and recycle 100% of its packaging by 2030. Now, human trafficking is said to be the second largest organized crime, superseded by only drug trafficking. A new podcast on the digital radio service CliffCentral is shining a spotlight on this crime and hopes to educate and bring about positive change to the cause. But here's my question. Why a podcast, and is it the most effective way of reaching and educating local audiences? Gareth Cliff is with us, founder of CliffCentral, alongside brand manager Sia Sangweni. To both of you, a very warm welcome. Gareth, to you first of all, why is this issue so important to you?
Well, I think it should be important to all of us. If it's the second biggest crime and the second biggest problem in terms of criminality in the world, then I think we should all be paying attention to it. It's obviously of great concern, but I think what's more bizarre about it is that South Africa is right near the top of the list of countries that are involved in human trafficking, from the point of view that so many of our own people are trafficked to other parts of the world. I mean, that's terrifying. So it's interesting, for a start. It's also something that I don't think gets the amount of press coverage proportionally that it probably deserves. And podcasting, to answer your question from before that, is a great place to tell these stories because you've got access to the long form, and you can patch in people from all over the world. You can do it over as long as it takes to tell the story I'm in between news and traffic and weather and sport and all those other things. And I think the people who are really interested come for that content.
And I'm quite happy to admit that as my radio listening has diminished, my podcast listening has increased. So, Sia, the question to you, is it a platform, do you think, that is really starting to gain traction in South Africa?
Well, definitely in South Africa and globally. We see the way in which we're all changing and consuming media, changing on the daily. You know, we love on-demand service. I think the notion of being able to have to go home because at 8 o'clock we have to wait for what will air on our TV screens is changing. And so similarly, when it comes to what we consume in terms of audio content, this is a form of content that fits into your schedule. You listen to what you want, when you want to listen to. Audiences nowadays don't have to be dictated to. They get to decide what they want to consume.
Is this a change, Gareth, in direction for your brand? CliffCentral, digital radio in the morning, irreverent, witty, fun, engaging, a little controversial sometimes. This is a very serious issue. Are you starting to grow up a little bit?
I should hope so. It's taken me long. Sia, you can tell. We employed him fresh out of high school, and he's more mature than I was a year ago. The reality is that, yes, podcasting is becoming a very serious business. It's the fastest growing medium in the world right now. In America, it's growing 70% year on year. And for us, it was an obvious gear change to start producing series like this, which don't even involve me as a presenter or anything else. This one is hosted by a completely different panel of people. It's hosted by the people who know the subject matter the best and who are the most well-versed in all the detail and who are most passionate about it. And from the point of view of what we started with in terms of streaming and online radio and all the rest, that was really a launch pad for ultimately what we knew was going to happen, the Netflix of audio, effectively. And that's kind of where we're at the moment.
So, Sia, I'm all for campaign journalism, but you do something like this, and one hopes the quality is good, because that differentiates great podcasts from the others. But what difference do you want to make? How are you going to move the needle?
We get to open the eyes of the listener in a whole new way. I think I speak on behalf of the rest of the team as we've been putting this together with Hope Prison Foundation, which is an anti-human trafficking organization, and one of our partners, Pembani, and being able to look at the different aspects of human trafficking, saying South Africa is one of the best constitutions in the world, but does it really support survivors or victims of human trafficking? What can we all do? How do you define human trafficking? These are just some of the conversations that we get to have.
And to interject that the harrowing stories here, which you're able to hear from the first person point of view in detail, are not the kinds of things, and the people who will come to find this stuff are the people who are already interested in it and want to know more, but also the people who will probably spread it through their own networks. It's what we're calling the endowment effect. Effectively, this populates itself. It goes viral in a way that only the kind of content that you can get on demand can go. And people are listening to podcasts at a rate which, I mean, you know, having you and I both having done radio for as long as we have, radio you can only hear once and then it's done. With this, people are sometimes going back and re-listening to an episode. So you get more than 100% listen-through rates.
Do you know who these people are?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the beauty.
But what's the profile of the podcast listener in this country?
Well, the beauty of digital media is that you can track everything. You can track it at varying levels of granularity. But what's interesting about the people who are listening to this is a very wide spread of age, race, lifestyle standard measure, you know, rich and poor, young and old. And I think the important thing here is that psychographically, these people are all the kind of people who are, you know, they're interested in social justice. They're interested in human interest stories. They're keen to know about people's personal journeys and the difficulties that people are going through, sometimes perhaps because they're going through them themselves.
And they're also just keen to learn. You know, one of the things we say quite often at our offices is really podcasting has opened up to this whole university of life. You know, you get to select what you listen to and consume, and really is endless possibilities of learning in this case. It just speaks to so many other projects as well that we're working on. You know, we have a new series that's launching soon called the Interchange, which we're working with an amazing organization called Simong, and we're hosting debates as a podcast.
You know, proper old school debates, the kind where you have X amount of time, there's a proposition and opposition, and really smart young South Africans, articulate, erudite, informed, great general knowledge, and really fiery and passionate. So it's not the angry rhetoric you get on Twitter.
We're so spoiled for choice these days with podcasts. How do you differentiate it in the audience's mind so that they go to you? In other words, how do you market it better than everybody else does so I can find you?
Look, there are a number of ways to do this, but the heavy lifting is usually done by the audience themselves because they search for what they're interested in. We started a series earlier this year called Blind History. For anyone who's interested in history, it's 15-minute bits on important characters from history. Some of them are not good, but they're great. And it's interesting because these things are now, you can search for the name of a particular person. You'll find podcasts on just about everything, which is terrific. And once you find one, it leads you to another. So within the podcast ecosystem, there's a lot of cross-marketing. But outside of that, it's all word of mouth. It's the same way people used to, and they still do. If you find a great series on TV, you go, oh, you've got to watch this show.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens with podcasting. Now, around the dinner table or at the braai, or while people are sitting talking to each other at the bar, they're going, have you heard this podcast?
And that is happening with increasing frequency. Good luck, and good luck with the rest of the series.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Next on the program, our new advertising campaign is paying tribute to the real heroes of the South African economy.